Okay. That looks right.
Good. I'll try it and see where we go.
Where are we going?
Masinjir.
What are we doing there?
Going to dart an elephant in Limpopo National Park.
We're using Karangani as our base still for a few days. Limpopo National Park is only about an hour and a half's drive north of Karangani, and that is going to be the location of where we are collaring an elephant. Have you seen the elephant collar?
I did, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And then the counterweight, big heavy counterweight sits at the bottom, but we'll look at that a little bit closer later on. Now this is in collaboration with Elephants Alive and Limpopo National Park. And the idea behind collaring elephants in this area is that Elephants Alive are collecting data on the movements of elephants. Their aim is to establish elephant corridors and therefore be able to protect these corridors and reduce human-wildlife conflict with farmers, with poachers. So the data is absolutely critical to this need. That's the counterweight. Doesn't look like much, but it's flipping heavy.
What does it do?
It makes sure that this is the GPS like satellite box that needs to speak to the satellite. So that must always stay on the top of the Ellie's neck. So this counterweight makes sure that it hangs down and doesn't flip around and around and around.
Cool.
So this particular elephant that we are collaring has already got a collar. So Elephants Alive have been monitoring this elephant for the last 3 to 4 years, and it is time to replace that collar, put the new one on. It's quite an extensive operation. We've got to put a helicopter in the air, and the helicopter will, well, the vet in the helicopter will dart the elephant from the air.
Grant just got the okay that one person can go with him in the helicopter, and I'm the lucky one because I have the cameras.
Michelle, Quinton and DEON headed out by road, and Grant and I were flying in to meet them. I had been looking forward to this particular day ever since they invited us along on this conservation expedition to Southern Mozambique. And as Team Ironman 4x4, we were all thrilled at the opportunity to help in any way we could. It was an unexpected bonus to experience a day in the life of a wildlife helicopter pilot.
Some days there's plans for the next morning, like hopefully tomorrow I'm heading down to the south, I think to do some deployments, so I'll go down to the south, pick up some scouts and drop them off. But yeah, I kind of have to be ready and within 10 minutes of the helicopter during daylight hours. I'll get up before sunrise and have a cup of coffee and listen to the birds, and then go and open the hangar and do my pre-flight checks and just make sure the helicopter is ready to go, and then just sit and wait. Some days are very busy, it's feast or famine. Yeah, I'm kind of flying 4 hours a day or 20 minutes and then nothing for 5 days. So the objective here is essentially to have no work. So quiet times are good, I suppose, in terms of the mandate, but obviously wanting to fly all the time, it's a bit trickier.
I think Grant is done with all the pre-flight checks. What are you doing? That looks interesting.
This is just fuel that you drain from the fuel tank. Make sure there's no water in there, because water and fuel don't mix. So if there's any water that settles in there, it just drains out the bottom. You can throw it out.
How do you know? It looks like water to me.
No, because this is blue, and then it also smells like fuel, and water will sit like in a bubble at the bottom here.
Can I smell it?
Yeah. It smells quite nice.
It does. It
different to
doesn't
car
have a strong smell.
Yeah, it's different to car petrol though. It's quite uniquely avgas.
And is it expensive fuel?
It's a little bit more expensive than petrol. It sort of ranges between or around the 20 Rand a litre mark. So sometimes 22, sometimes 19, but usually around there.
And how far can you go on a litre of?
It burns a litre a minute.
Yo.
And you can put about 180 litres in. So that gives you 3 hours, but I'd say probably 2.5 just to stay safe, so it doesn't go very far. It's nearly a full 200 litre drum in just under 3 hours, yeah.
Yo. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, to keep us in the air.
To keep us in the air.
Obviously doing wildlife work or conservation work from a helicopter is very different to flying a helicopter in the city. Flying out in the wilderness obviously is very different. It has its ups and downs. You're very, very remote, so you've got to be on top of your machine and how it works, and if something's not quite right, you need to make a plan, which often involves getting someone or parts from very far away to come in and sort it out.
Whenever you approach the helicopter to get in, just come from the front of the helicopter towards it, and when you walk away, also walk towards the front, just to stay away from the very fast spinning tail rotor. Easiest way to climb in is this leg first, and then sit in, because it can get quite tricky. And then when you climb out, just go that leg first, and then that one. Because people try and do head first and then both legs first, and it can get quite tricky. And then the seatbelt works the same as a car, so you can just clip that guy in.
Thank you. Can I put my bag in the back?
Yeah.
Our first stop would be to pick up the vet and a field ranger at a scout camp in Limpopo National Park.
No, it's not luggage, it's camera equipment.
Yeah, not makeup. Okay.
So since I was a little kid, helicopters have always fascinated me, so I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot one day. So during my off time, always when I wasn't guiding, if I didn't have guests, I'd go and do some flight lessons. It's very, very expensive, so it took me 7 years.
Reserve section, Limpopo National Park. Endurance is 1.5. Number of passengers, 1. Over.
This is the exact kind of work that I wanted to do before I started flying, was conservation work. And I like machines and I like the way that they work, and of course helicopters are quite fascinating when you look at all of that stuff, so it kind of combined the two quite nicely. If I could get my helicopter license and do my game rating and then get into conservation work. So essentially here the main focus is on patrols and protecting the area, keeping it safe, so deploying and picking up scouts and canine units, and then the odd session of game work, darting or capture, or whatever needs to be done, but all conservation focused. So Wild Wonderful World is a conservation-focused tour operator that plans and sells safaris. Michelle guides some of them still, and the money that's brought in from that is channeled through our fund to support conservation projects all over Africa.
Yeah. So we set up Wild Wonderful World after coming back from our conservation expedition, trying to figure out how do we support conservation projects sustainably, because they all needed money. That's the bottom line. Every conservation project, every NGO, every researcher needs funding. We've got to a point now where Wild Wonderful World is essentially split in two. We've got the tourism operation side of things, where we're running our conservation safaris, bringing people from all around the world to various African countries, connecting them to the incredible wilderness that we have on the ground, whilst making a difference as they travel. Then we run our conservation trust, and through that we have three main pillars. There is our rapid response fund, which makes emergency funding available when it is needed. The second pillar is our frontier projects, which is focusing mostly on research and projects that are looking to the future for protecting wildlife. So collaring elephants, collaring any animal that collects information and data that will help us conserve that animal into the future would come under our frontier projects. And then the third is flying for conservation, which is very much linked to what Grant is doing, making helicopter time available to projects that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have the funding to use a helicopter. And in our experience, when you put a helicopter into the air, you can achieve infinitely more than without one in many, many cases. So whether it be for veterinary uses, but importantly for the moment as well for anti-poaching. So making sure that we're funding helicopter hours during full moons for night patrols, or even just for anti-poaching patrols or deploying scouts. That's what our Flying for Conservation part of our fund is for.
That was awesome. Such a beautiful flight. Thank you. It's stunning from the air here. It's really beautiful. Hello, puppy.
Good weather as well.
Hello. Hello. What a welcome. Hello. That's a nice welcome. And that's HUGO. HUGO is the vet. He's going to be darting the Ellie.
Mozambique Wildlife Alliance is an NGO that works in partnership with ANAC. ANAC is our conservation area national administration. So ANAC oversees the management of all parks in Mozambique, all public parks, all that are government related, but also oversees private protected areas because the animals in Mozambique are from Mozambique. And we offer them our support in wildlife operations. That can be veterinary interventions, in research, collaring, translocations of animals, human-wildlife conflict. We are also consultants for the government when they have to do conservation decisions. So we are there to offer our expertise in wildlife conservation, basically.
Do you strap yourself in so you can't fall out?
Yeah.
That's clever.
Well, ideally you wouldn't need these, but there's always a risk. Haven't had any problems so far. Planning to keep it that way. But yeah, it's a strap just to make sure that I am safe in case something happens.
Safety first.
Safety first for everyone, actually.
So Elephants Alive is a South African-based elephant research NGO. They have been operating for about 25 years and it's headed up by Michelle HENLEY.
Firstly, I'd like to start by saying thank you so much to Wild Wonderful World for supplying us with 2 collars to collar elephants in Mozambique. And this is really an amazing opportunity because through many years of collaring elephants, we've discovered this amazing corridor where elephants are linking Kruger National Park with the Futi corridor, which obviously links to the coastal population of elephants in Maputo Special Reserve. So we're very, very interested in formalizing this corridor for the elephants and getting to see how many elephants are using this pathway and how often they use it, when do they go back into Kruger, how they're dodging human-elephant conflict, because sometimes they move through very human-habitated areas and that's very dangerous for them, so the elephants are smart enough to go through those areas at night.
We're going to Makavan airstrip to meet the ground crew. We're going to get the collar from them, put them in the helicopter, and we'll start with the procedure, the collaring procedure. Well, darting procedure first, and once the animal is down, I'll stay with Ute, waiting for the team to join us, and yeah.
We hope that through the likes of Dr. Lucy King, that's the specialist on beehive fences, we can build in long-term mitigation strategies and diminish human-elephant conflict in certain zones. And we're very, very excited about this project. I think it's amazing that we've got these trailblazing elephants that are coming out of Kruger, and the entire journey is about 200 kilometers long.
I was dropped off to wait with Michelle and the guys while the professionals embarked on the risky mission of finding and darting our lucky Ellie called Nikki.
So Nikki's an elephant that was collared 5 years ago, and the collar is running, the battery of the collar is running low, so we need to replace it because it's providing us a lot of elephant movement information that can be used to make better management decisions about the herds in Limpopo Park. So we want to provide continuity of data by replacing the old collar with a new one, and that's what we're doing today.
Doing the kind of work that we do with helicopters is a lot of things that you have to think about at the same time. Obviously my job is to fly the helicopter, so I've got to make sure that that's still happening. So I've got to look at powers, temperatures, pressures, wind direction. While I'm doing that, I've got to watch for trees, you know, because you're flying very low and very slow, which inherently in itself is quite dangerous. It's something that a lot of people refer to as the dead man's curve. Where you don't have enough altitude or forward speed to recover from an engine failure. So if something should happen, yeah, you're just not in a good place if things do go bad.
We feel very, very blessed to be partnering with the Mozambique Wildlife Alliance that have wonderful vets that help with the collaring operations, and you know, it's a very well-run exercise when you're dealing with experts. So the elephant gets darted from a chopper, and then it takes about 8 minutes for the drug to kick in. So it's a morphine derivative, which is very lethal to humans because it's incredibly strong.
What did he say? What did he say?
I know, just radioed to say darts in and just waiting for her to go down. So they will have pulled up and just be hovering above, preferably trying to get her into a more open area, and yeah, gonna keep us updated. And then as soon as she's down and he's been able to drop the vet, then hopefully he'll ferry and come pick you guys up. And it's important to use a helicopter because once the dart's in, the animals get a fright and they usually run. And we need that helicopter to monitor where that elephant goes down and, importantly, make that area safe. So in the instance where we're darting an elephant that is part of a herd, the helicopter will then help usher the rest of the herd away so that the area around the elephant that has gone down is safe.
A helicopter is an incredible machine that's so versatile. You can land anywhere, you can fly, you can hover, you can fly backwards, you can fly sideways. But then using that machine for what it's designed for as a tool to achieve this conservation goal is kind of what motivated me.
The helicopter then lands, the vet jumps out and runs across to the elephant to ensure that the elephant has gone down in a safe area. He carries a machete and sometimes even a chainsaw, because if any branches need to be cut to clear the space around the elephant, he can do so. And then whatever needs to be done in terms of ensuring that elephant is safe and breathing well, that's his priority first and foremost.
Good news, the Ellie has been darted, so now Grant is going to come and pick us up and ferry us back to the Ellie so we can see what's going on.
Okay, let's just move out the middle of where he's going to land.
I'm super excited. I just want to go and see the Ellie. So super excited, can't wait.
Have you been in a helicopter before?
I have, but many years ago, so that's even more exciting as well. And yeah, to go see an elephant darted is definitely my first time, so can't wait.
Of course I worry when he flies. Game capture and wildlife flying is probably the most dangerous type of helicopter flying one can do. But I'm proud that he goes out there every day doing what he does. I think he is respectful and aware of the dangers, even more so than I am. And for him to be able to combine his 12 plus years of guiding and mammal behavior and understanding with now flying helicopters, I think it's an incredible resource for people to make use of.
Okay, so the Ellie has landed. Would have gone the wrong way. The Ellie has landed on her chest, and apparently it's not good for her to breathe like that, so we have to quickly rush in and just push her onto her side. This is exciting, it's crazy.
So once an elephant's darted, there actually isn't very much time on the ground. There's obviously a lot of stress on that animal once they're down, and depending on how they fall, it can be putting pressure on their lungs, on their internal organs. So depending on how they go down, almost dictates to you how much time you've got.
She's breathing okay.
Okay.
But we can't have her in this position for longer than 25 minutes.
Okay.
Because their lungs are attached to the walls of the thorax, so they can't expand on their own. They need the belly to breathe as well. So if we put her sideways, she will be able to expand better.
Okay.
So yeah, we can try to push. We're gonna have to work like this, so we'll have to be quick. Just waiting for Grant to bring nuts and bolts. Collar is already there. All collar is up there. It was quite tight on her neck actually. It was here. Okay.
As you can see.
It was already very tight. So we're gonna have to put this one a bit looser, which is good, because she's a big lady.
You don't think one extra pair of hands would help push her over?
Maybe. We can try.
1, 2, 3, and all at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
It can fall asleep either on its sternum or laterally. It's supposed to be laterally. If they go down on their sternum, you need a couple of people to roll them over.
I'm gonna go. Let's just fit the collar and get you guys out.
Or you've got to work really quickly if the animal's on its sternum. And then you fit the collar. We've got various morphometric measurements that we take, and also blood samples and various biosamples that we try and collect.
This is amazing.
She could have been down a long time ago.
She should have been a long time down. A long time ago.
With highlights. Yeah. It would have been.
Yeah, it was like over 8 minutes, eh?
Yeah, she was down in 9. Normally it's like 3 to 6 minutes.
That's crazy. The tricky thing I think with cows is that they're always with a group. So even now while we're down here, it's good to just listen for the herd, because they always want to come back. And they stayed with her right until she fell down, and actually had to come in quite close to move them away, and they're very reluctant to leave her. So I think that's the one tricky thing with elephant cows. Bulls obviously by themselves are a little bit easier. But yeah, they tend to also want to stick in thick bushes when they are stressed, so it's kind of hard to get them out into the open, and they didn't want to go into the river either, so that's why she went down just on the riverbank, which is also fine.
If I'm the bad one, take a look at yourself in the mirror. If I'm the worst one, ask anybody else who they prefer. If it comes down to me and you, I think that you are the one with a bad attitude. What sort of conflict? You got no clue. Tell me, what is your problem?
The collar itself was donated by a guest and donor of Wild Wonderful World, Hug. We're very, very thankful for his hugely generous donation. And without donors like Hug and support like this, there's no ways we could afford to purchase these collars and collar the elephants. I can't stress enough how important the data is. An elephant collar lasts for between 3 and 4 years, and data collection of that magnitude gives not just a glimpse into an elephant's movement, but it builds up years of data and repeated movement through the seasons, through the years, and it helps build trends on where these elephants are moving and under what conditions. There's a lot of time and effort that's gone into developing the materials used for these collars. They have to last many years, and when you're putting the collar on, you have to line it up exactly, because the satellite box has to sit exactly on the neck.
All these rules is great. Does it make you feel good too? Close the shade, 'cause I don't really get it.
I think sharing an experience in an operation like this With Quinton, DEON, I mean, they've never had this sort of elephant operation experience before. You're standing next to a giant, and it's not until you get close to these animals that you can really comprehend how big they are.
I think there's just so many wonderful things about elephants. I mean, at an ecological level, they carry seeds 65 kilometers from the source, which is incredible. So they're wonderful seed dispersers. They're mega fertilizing agents because they can carry 150 kilograms of dung per day against the gradient when they go uphill. They lower the canopy for other species to use, and because they've got large space requirements, when you're conserving elephants, you're automatically conserving all the other smaller species that share the landscape with them. So they're known as umbrella species as well. They've got all these incredible traits that make them really special. They're highly intelligent. I mean, they've passed the self-recognition mirror test with flying colours, which is your primates like chimpanzees and gorillas have also passed that test. So, you know, you're dealing with really clever animals, and that's also why when you work within the human-elephant conflict space, you've really got to change your strategy the whole time because they're so smart, and it's a challenge. Working with elephants to me is a heartwarming exercise, but it's also a mental challenge because they're also smart. And then it's also just a really humbling experience because of the way they are so important ecologically. They are system engineers, and there's so much to respect about them.
We need to get you guys out. Coloring's done, she looks good, but we need to wake her up because she's been down a while and not in a lacquer position. So.
Cool. Are we going to take that one back, or do you want me?
That one we need to take back.
This was an absolutely epic, crazy experience. Thank you very much for letting us film this. And I hope everything goes well with you, young lady. Have a good life. Bye. See you soon.
That's epic. Unreal.
That was amazing.
It's the best thing ever. I've never experienced anything like it. I love it, and this is something I would not mind doing for the rest of my life. This is life-changing.
Too awesome for words even.
Since I first met Grant, he has been helicopter mad. It was something that he worked towards for many, many years. So to see him up in the skies now, doing the exact flying that he has always dreamed about doing, it just makes me so proud.
I don't know why I care. I don't know, without getting too spiritual, because I'm not very good at that, but like, I don't know, I care because I'm connected. I feel like I'm connected to it. Since I've been a kid, it's been going to the bush with my parents or my grandparents and learning, just fascinated by wilderness. And if I'm in the bush and feel isolated and it's wild, it just makes me happy. So. And I know that doesn't happen everywhere. You know, you can go to certain game reserves or whatever they would call themselves, and it doesn't feel the same. So you go to a new place or a vast wilderness and fly over nothing but bush for an hour and a half to get somewhere, and you land there and you feel like, wow, this is special, and it would be so sad if it disappeared. And the closer you get to built-up areas or cities, you see that it used to be like that and it's gone. And yeah, I just think it would be a terrible shame to lose all this wilderness.
So, that was amazing. It all happened very fast.
I'll be here.
Thank you. It all happened really fast.
You guys are back so quickly. Wow. They must have, I guess because there's so few of them, they just like rushed through that up.
Yeah.
So, tell me about it.
It was like...
It was the best thing ever.
It was seriously
awesome. So cool.
But we battled, we couldn't...
Yeah, we couldn't push over.
Yes, we tried it.
We were too little people.
Yeah, I thought that might... I was worrying about that part of it.
But she was fine.
With such a small team.
The vet said she was breathing fine and he's happy with the vitals, so...
You can help by creating awareness, by talking about elephants, by bringing them into the conversation. And then you can also help by donating. You can go onto our website or Wild Wonderful World, or You can also make donations in kind. I mean, we often need equipment being in remote areas. So, you know, if you're a tyre company, it would help if we could get tyres, for instance, because we're always going through tyres like anything in these rugged terrains. But there's many things you can do. It's not, you know, it's not only, this is what I always tell people, it's not only about the money, but it's also about the friendship and becoming part of the herd and sharing the excitement around elephants. And that's how we slowly change people's thinking.
It's really, really important to us that we get as many people involved as possible. As David Attenborough once said, if you don't care about something, you're not going to want to protect it. And so our aim is to get people involved on the ground, whether that be through a safari and joining us and experiencing some of Africa's most beautiful wilderness areas, or whether it is somebody who's more interested in getting hands-on and involved on the ground, coming to experience conservation at its absolute most real. So getting involved with an anti-poaching patrol, or going and helping to collect snares, or getting involved with a veterinary operation or a collaring. I think until you know what's involved and the amount of work that goes into conservation, it's very, very difficult to understand what conservation means.
Quinton and Dion got a ride back to Karangani with Grant, and Michelle and I took the scenic road home.
Girls trip! Have you got the keys?
Yeah, I hope so. Oh my God, I hope they're here. Oh my God. You don't think he took them, do you?
The keys?
Yeah. Have you got the key? Did you want to drive?
No, you drive.
Can you imagine if he'd taken the keys and we would have been totally stranded here?
I did think about that.
I didn't even think about that.
But I only thought about it now when I was standing with the keys, because Quinton was the one who thought about it and gave them to me.
You see, I wouldn't have had, you don't have that problem with the Landy because you can just jump start it and off it goes. There's no fancy buttons like this. All right, let's see if we can find our way home.
After this day of victory for conservation, it was the cherry on top to return to Karangani for our last night there. The people we met and the selfless efforts we witnessed over the past few days have given me a new hope for the future of conservation.
I feel quite overwhelmed having seen Karangani and seen what they are achieving there. It's not very often that you visit a game reserve that is entirely conservation focused. They're not yet running a tourism model of any kind. It's 100% donor funded. And I think to have seen what they have achieved, essentially out of the goodwill of people, is so heartwarming to know that there's people there out there in our planet who have a wildlife focus at heart. And we've been incredibly privileged to have seen as much of Karangani as we have, between doing our fence patrol, being out on foot with the K9 unit, seeing their headquarters and computer room and operations. It's quite overwhelming to see how much effort is going in there, not to mention the rewilding part of it. I feel very proud to be a part of the Karangani operation, in the sense that, you know, we have supported by visiting and that we're raising awareness of what they're doing there. I think it's really important to spread the word.
It's just like the saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. But now I know in my hometown, running free, it could be everything that we were chasing. I'm impatient just to see how you make everything fall into place.
Conservation efforts can be very expensive, especially if you look at a project like this where it's infrastructure development. There's no roads, building fences where there were no fences before, anti-poaching efforts. All of these are things that cost a lot of money, and that money had to come from somewhere.
And something that I find really admirable, if I understand it correctly, is that the investment into Karangani is not about turning a profit. And that's very interesting to me because yes, there might be some tourism development in the future that might generate some revenue, but the investment here is into conservation and into a large stretch of wilderness and protecting it. And that has just blown my mind. It's the first time I've come across a project like this. So I'd really like to thank everyone at Karangani for what they do and also for showing us the reserve and sharing their special place with us over the last few days. And also to Michelle and Grant from Wild Wonderful World, not just for connecting us to Karangani and taking us on this trip, but also for their selfless efforts in conservation. It's because of their project that funds were raised for 2 elephant collars, not just for the Ellie that we darted yesterday, but we are currently on our way to Maputo Special Reserve, where we are going to meet up with elephants alive to hand over the 2nd collar. And I'm super excited about that because we will be spending a few days in close proximity to them. So I'm really hoping that we'll get the opportunity to learn about their conservation efforts, and also hoping there's a chance that we might meet Dr. Lucy King. And I think chances are really good that we can spend some time with Michelle Henley, both people who are just legends in elephant conservation. For all of you who watched this video, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I've enjoyed being on this trip and filming it and attempting to tell the story. And for those of you who already subscribed, thank you. Your support is really appreciated. If you don't subscribe, please consider subscribing and share this with your friends because awareness is a very important part of conservation. It's kind of where it starts. So I will see you guys at the Maputo Special Reserve, where we are going to be camping behind a dune at the ocean. Very excited about that. All right, bye.